Hi, it's Mr. Lavera, and in this video, we will be discussing with how the urinary system works and its importance. So, without further ado, let us start with our discussion. So, before we start with our lesson, the learning objectives of this lesson are to discuss the structure and functions of the kidney, explain accessory excretory system of the urinary system, and also we will explain our urine and the urination process. So, we all know naman 'di ba na ang lahat ng kinakain at iniinom natin is napupunta sa digestive system natin. So, after ma-absorb ng katawan natin yung nutrients na galing sa mga kinain at ininom natin, the digestive system breaks down and remove the waste and toxins. And yung only one solution to remove that waste and toxins is by the help of our urinary system. And that's what we will be discussing today. But first, ano nga ba ang urinary system?
Urinary system. It is also called as the excretory system, being as one of its function is to remove waste product from the blood and eliminate them from the body. So by its definition, yung urinary system is mas tinatawag itong excretory system. When we say excretory, it means exit o papalabas, na ang main function nito is to remove the waste product na galing sa katawan natin. Its major function are to excrete waste, hormonal production, renin-angiotensin, and erythropoietin, and acid-base balance. So, in generally, they are cleaning the solid waste from our blood that are going to be left in our body as urine or ihe. So, that's the major function of our urinary system. So, as we can see, we have here the components of the urinary system. We have also the two pairs of ureters, the bladders and the urethra. So these components of urinary system plays a vital role of excretion.
So, we will be discussing the two kidneys, the two ureters, the bladder, and the urethra by their functions and by their importance.
Let us take first the external anatomy of the kidney. So what is the kidney? Kidney is a pair of reddish-brown bean-shaped organ that is located in the posterior wall of the abdominal region, one in each side of the vertebral column. So they are protected at least partially by the last pair of ribs and capped by the adrenal gland. The bean shape of the kidney is medially concave and laterally convex. On the medial concave border is the hilus, which is a small indented area where blood vessels, nerves, and ureters enter and leave the kidney. So, kung mapapansin natin, yung kidney natin is protected siya ng ribcage. They are called bean-shaped organ because hugis beans ito. And also, kung mapapansin naman natin dito sa may anterior part ng kidney is yung adrenal gland na hindi naman masyadong related sa function ng urinary system. And also, makikita din natin dito yung nasa gitna na tinatawag naman nating hilus where blood vessels, nerves, and ureters enter and leave the kidney. So, in the external anatomy of our kidney, we have here the three layers of the tissue that covers and supports each kidney. So, first, we have the renal fascia, which is the outer subserous membrane and connective tissue layer. So, it is in the outside part of our kidney. So, next is we have the adipose capsule, which is the middle layer that composed of fat, giving the kidney protective cushion. Ito naman yung nasa middle portion ng kidney at ng renal fascia. And also, we have the renal capsule, the innermost tough and fibrous layer. So, ito naman yung nagsiserve as core sa ating kidney. So, we are done discussing the external anatomy and the layers that covers and supports the kidney. So, let us proceed naman sa internal anatomy of the kidney. So, if we slice our kidney, we are able to see the internal structure of our kidney. So, the first thing that we have to remember is in internal anatomy of our kidney, there are three distinct regions. We called it as the renal pelvis, renal medulla, and the renal cortex. So, we have to remember that when we say the word renal, it means kidney. So, first is we have here the renal pelvis, which is the large collecting space within the kidney that formed from the expanded upper portion of the ureters. So there are two cavities that pelvis have, which is the 2 to 3 major calyces and 8 to 18 minor calyces. So the renal pelvis is on the center that all the nephrons are going to enter into to get rid of our urine. That's eventually going to go through the ureter. So if we look inside to our kidney, we will see the whole thing na puno ng mga blood vessels. So next is, we have the renal medulla, which is the middle portion of the kidney that consists of 8 to 18 renal pyramids, which are longitudinally striped, one cone-shaped area. So the base of each pyramid is adjacent to the outer cortex. The apex of each renal pyramid ends in papilla, which opens to a minor calyx. Pyramids contain tubules and collecting ducts of the nephron. Tubules involved in transportation and reabsorption of filtered materials. So the renal medulla is located inside our kidney, and also the renal cortex, that is the outer layer of our kidney.
So let us proceed on how the blood circulate.
Blood circulation. Blood is supplied the kidney by renal artery and drainage is by renal vein. So we have 7 types of blood circulation. We have inferior vena cava, ureter vein, renal artery, medulla, abdominal aorta na nag-filter out sa blood natin through our kidney. It will exit sa vena cava. Then yung renal vein natin, siya naman yung nag-drainage sa blood natin so that show our blood circulate and become clean by toxin and body waste. Major function of the kidney. So we have to eliminate waste, regulation of total body water balance, control of the chemical composition of the blood and other body fluid, and control of acid-base balance. So we have to remember that the main hero of urinary system is our kidney. Our kidneys to do the main job of filtering our blood and removing all the waste substances from it. The rest of the urinary system is basically just a storage unit and provides a mechanical force someone that the urine can be expelled from the body. So, in a general, our kidneys are incredibly important. Without them, we will die unless magpa-kidney dialysis tayo, but napakahirap ng pag-process nito. Kaya napaka-importanting mailabas natin yung maruruming fluid sa katawan natin in order to clean our blood.
So when we zoom out inside the kidney, we will see the functional filtration unit of our kidney, which is the nephron. So each nephron is consist of renal corpuscle. So in general functions ng different parts ng nephron, because they have many turns, is to filtrate, to reabsorb water, and to solutes to go back to the bloodstream. And after this, it will empty into a collecting duct. And then it will process naman through the medullary pyramids and finally deliver urine in the calyces. So that's how the filtration occur in the nephron. So the question here is, papaano nga ba exactly napoproduce yung urine o yung ihi natin? So the answer is, this is the 3 steps process. It begins with filtration. Okay? Na itong filtration na ito is, it takes place in the renal corpuscle. So in filtration, the blood is forced through a filtration membrane into the glomerular capsule. So, this filtration membrane, it allows only the water and yung mga small solutes to pass through, okay? But not the proteins or anything that is larger, especially yung entire cells, because masyado na silang malaki to pass through. So, the next steps in urine production is the tubular reabsorption. So, dito sa reabsorption, from the word itself, yung mga na-filtrates will make it back into the blood, like yung mga glucose, amino acids, and most of the water. And then, yung mga natira, it will be possibly become urine or ihi. So, let us proceed naman to the third steps, which is the tubular secretion. So, dito sa secretion, ito yung opposite ng reabsorption. Okay? So, in other words, Yung ihi natin is the combination of substances that were filtered and mga substances that were secreted. Okay? And lastly, we have here the excretion. So, yung ihi natin is almost entirely water. But, yun nga, it contains a lot of urea, which is the result of the breakdown of amino acids as well as uric acid and creatinine. So, so that's the process of how urine formed. So, we are done with the kidneys and let us proceed to the accessory excretory structures. So, let us proceed with our ureters.
Ureters. So, once yung urine or yung ihi natin is na-produce na, kailangan natin nitong malabas sa katawan natin. So, ano nga ba yung next step? So, as we can see here, this is the ureters. The ureters is a tube that attached to each kidney. It transports urine from the renal pelvis to the urinary bladder. It passes between the parietal peritoneum and the body wall to the pelvic cavity, where they enter the pelvic cavity. It is narrow at the kidney and widen near the bladder. So, yung function ng ureters is ito yung nagsiserve as passageway para matransport yung ihi natin na na-produce galing sa kidney and then papunta naman sa bladder. So, that's the role of our ureters. Walls of the ureters. So, yung ureters natin are made of the 3 layers. First, we have the tunica adventitia, that is the outer or connective tissue. Second, we have the tunica muscularis, that is found in the middle, that is made of smooth muscle. And lastly, we have the tunica mucosa, which is the innermost. So that's are the walls of our ureters.
Urinary bladder. So, ano nga bang urinary bladder? It is a hollow muscular organ that collects urine from the ureters and is stored until it's excreted. It is usually accumulates 300 to 400 ml of urine, but it can expand as much twice. It's located on floor of the pelvic cavity and like the kidney and ureters, it is a retroperitoneal. In males, it is anterior to rectum and above the prostate gland. In females, it is located somewhat lower anterior to the uterus and upper vagina. So, in summarization, yung main role ng bladder natin is dito na i-store yung ihi o yung urine natin na na-produce galing sa kidney through ureters until ma-release natin yung ihi na yon. So, that's how urinary bladder works. Walls of the bladder. So, like sa ureters natin, yung bladder natin is meron ding 3 walls, which are the tunica mucosa, the innermost layer lined with transitional epithelium. Next, we have the tunica muscularis, the middle layer of smooth muscles, these collectively called the trusers muscles, and also the tunica serosa, outer layer driven from peritoneum and covers only the upper and lateral surface of the bladder. So that's are the walls of our bladder. Trigone. So as you can see here, these are the most important part of our urethra, which is the trigone. Trigone is the opening of ureters and urethra in the cavity of the bladder that outline together. Internal urethral sphincter. At the site where the urethra leaves the bladder, the smooth muscle in the wall of the bladder forms spiral, longitudinal, and circular bundles which contract to prevent the bladder from emptying permanently. External urethral sphincter. It is a circular sphincter of voluntary skeletal muscle that found in the middle membranous portion.
Urethra. So as we can see here, this urinary system ends with the urethra, which is part ito ng male and female genitalia. So ano nga ba ang urethra? Urethra. It is a tube of smooth muscle lined with mucosal layer that joins the bladder at its inferior surface and transport urine outside the body during urination. 4 cm in female and 12 cm in length in male. In females, it opens between vagina and clitoris. In male, it passes through prostate, membranous portion, pelvic diaphragm muscles, spongy portions that pass through corpus spongiosum and open at the tip of penis. The spongy portion joined by ducts from bulbourethral gland, muscle secreting gland.
So there are three processes that are involved in the formation of our urine. The first process is the blood filtration. So here in blood filtration, it is the separation of the smaller to larger plasma substances. Okay? So the second process is that tubular reabsorption. Dito naman, ito yung movement of substances from the tubules of the nephron into the peritubular capillaries. Okay, so the last process here is the tubular secretion. In tubular secretion, ito yung kabaliktaran ng reabsorption. Because kung sa reabsorption is the movement from tubules of the nephron into the peritubular capillaries, dito naman sa secretion, it is the movement of substances from peritubular capillaries into the tubules of the nephron. Okay, so that's the three processes of urine formation.
Urine. So, in generalization about with our urine, yung composition nito is depende sa pag-inom natin ng tubig sa araw-araw at sa mga kinakain natin, and at the same time sa pag-i-exercise natin. So, our urine is mostly water. 90 to 95% of our urine is going to be water, but the rest of it is going to be solid waste, both inorganic and organic waste.
So, the volume and concentration of our urine is controlled by antidiuretic hormone, aldosterone, and renin-angiotensin mechanism.
So, as we move forward, once yung ihi natin has been already produced by our kidney and transported to our ureters and bladder, it's now time for urine to be expelled from our body. So, as we can see here, urination is the emptying of the bladder, and this is the process of conscious and unconsciousness nerve control. So, when we say conscious and unconsciousness, ito yung awareness natin kung kailan tayo mag-urinate, because yung urinary system natin is it is connected sa motor neurons natin. It sends signals sa brain natin, but yun nga, may tendency na it can process the signal to our motor neurons. That's why may process of unconsciousness nerve control. So we have to remember that micturition is the another term that is used for urination.
So let us proceed to the step-by-step urination. Firstly, we have to conscious desire to urinate. Pelvic diaphragm, muscles relax. Urinary bladder, neck moves down. Outlet opens, wall stretch, and lastly, the smooth muscle of urinary bladder contracts and urine ejects.
So that's how our urinary system works. It's really simple and also it's really important. So that's only for our discussion.